Annette Funicello danced into the hearts of a generation as America's sweetheart, winning fans over with a smile that seemed untouched by pain. Discovered by Walt Disney himself, she rose from a shy 12-year-old in a mouse-eared cap to a beloved teen idol of the 1950s and 60s. Her voice lit up the charts. Her charm defined an era. And when the surf craze hit Hollywood, no one embodied the wholesome fun of beachside romance quite like she did. But while fans saw only sunshine and song, few realized that behind the youthful sparkle, something quietly troubling had already begun. Rise from the Mickey Mouse Club to teen stardom. Annette Joanne Funicello was born on October 22, 1942, in Utica, New York, to Italian-American parents Joseph and Virginia Funicello. She was the youngest of 3 children, raised in a close-knit Catholic household that emphasized discipline, humility, and hard work. Her father, a mechanic, moved the family to Southern California when Annette was just 4 years old. It was a decision made for better job opportunities, but it also inadvertently placed Annette in the heart of an entertainment industry that was just beginning to explode. Post-war Los Angeles in the late 1940s and early 1950s was buzzing with potential. The rise of television as a household fixture brought with it a demand for fresh, young talent. By the time Annette was 10, she was taking ballet, singing lessons, and acting in school plays. She wasn't just another child dreaming of stardom, she was showing serious promise. Her mother enrolled her in the Marjorie Sturgis Dance Studio in Burbank, a school known for producing professional-level talent. It was during one of the studio's dance recitals at the Starlight Bowl in Burbank in 1955 that Walt Disney himself attended, looking for fresh faces for an ambitious new project, the Mickey Mouse Club. Annette was performing the role of the Swan Queen in Swan Lake when Disney noticed her. He later recounted that there was something special about her, an aura of charm, innocence, and poise that stood out from all the other performers. Within days, she was signed as one of the original Mouseketeers. She was 12 years old. The Mickey Mouse Club premiered on October 3, 1955, and quickly became a cultural sensation. A mix of music, skits, serials, and moral lessons, it was the perfect vehicle for showcasing the talents of young performers. But among them, Annette stood out. She wasn't the best singer or the flashiest dancer, but her warm, relatable personality resonated deeply with viewers. Children loved her and parents trusted her. Almost immediately, she became the most popular Mouseketeer, receiving over 6,000 fan letters a month at the show's peak. Disney noticed. He began creating dedicated segments for her on the show, including serialized dramas like Annette, in which she played a sweet, orphaned country girl adjusting to life with her wealthy relatives in the city. The role showcased her acting range and solidified her as more than just a variety show performer. By 1958, with the Mickey Mouse Club winding down, Disney carefully managed her transition from child star to teen icon. Annette's first single, Tall Paul, written by the Sherman Brothers and released by Disneyland Records in 1959, became a breakout hit, reaching number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100, making her the first Mouseketeer to achieve national success in music. It was followed by other successful tracks like Pineapple Princess, Oh Dio Mio, and First Name Initial, which further cemented her status as a teen idol. She released several albums and even had a successful tour, performing in front of screaming teenagers who viewed her as the wholesome alternative to emerging rock and roll stars. Throughout all this, her image remained carefully managed. Walt Disney had one non-negotiable rule for Annette. She had to maintain her reputation as the all-American girl. That meant no revealing clothing, no edgy lyrics, and no public misbehavior. In an industry already notorious for consuming its young stars, Annette managed to navigate fame without ever stumbling into scandal. Her ability to mature in the public eye while retaining her charm and innocence made her a rarity. By the early 1960s, she had seamlessly transitioned into film, becoming the darling of the beach party genre. But even as she moved into more adult roles, Annette's early years at Disney remained the foundation of her public identity. She wasn't just a star. She was a symbol of an era when sincerity was valued as much as talent. Lead the beach party craze without breaking a promise. By the early 1960s, Annette Funicello was already a household name, but 1963 marked a major turning point that would permanently define her in the eyes of a new generation of moviegoers. That year, she was cast in Beach Party, a film that was as lighthearted and colorful as its title suggested. Co-starring opposite teen idol Frankie Avalon, the movie was one of the first to blend elements of surf culture, pop music, teen romance, and slapstick comedy into a breezy new genre that would dominate youth entertainment throughout the decade. Released by American International Pictures, AIP, Beach Party was a surprise commercial hit, grossing over $2 million on a modest budget of less than $500,000, a staggering return for the time. The success of Beach Party kicked off an entire franchise. Over the next few years, Annette and Frankie would appear together in Muscle Beach Party, Bikini Beach, Beach Blanket Bingo, and How to Stuff a Wild Bikini. The films weren't designed to win Oscars, but that wasn't the point. They provided joyful escapism for a generation of teenagers navigating the cusp of the sexual revolution. The plots were often thin, usually revolving around misunderstandings, beach competitions, or an eccentric adult villain. But the real draw was the vibe. Beach bonfires, catchy musical numbers, harmless flirting, and carefree youthfulness. At the center of it all was the magnetic pairing of Frankie and Annette. Their chemistry was effortless. Avalon's swagger and charm played perfectly against Funicello's sweet, approachable demeanor. He was the sun-kissed surfer, she the girl next door who somehow felt both innocent and worldly. Together, they weren't just actors, they were cultural avatars for a generation, caught between the buttoned-up values of the 1950s and the rebellious energy of the late 60s. But there was one detail that truly set Annette apart from every other beach bunny on screen. She never wore a bikini. That wasn't by accident. Before she agreed to take the role in Beach Party, she sought and received permission from Walt Disney, her mentor and the man who had made her famous. Disney, always fiercely protective of her image, gave his blessing under one condition: she would not wear anything too revealing. Specifically, he asked that she avoid two-piece swimsuits, which were becoming a staple of beach cinema at the time. Though no longer under Disney's contract, Annette still felt a deep sense of loyalty to the man who discovered her, and she agreed. The result was striking. While other actresses in the genre flaunted skimpy bikinis and played up the rising tide of sexual freedom, Annette always appeared in modest one-pieces, often paired with matching cover-ups or beach robes. And yet, this sartorial restraint didn't diminish her appeal, it enhanced it. Audiences saw her as confident, elegant, and true to herself. She embodied a new kind of feminine strength, one that didn't rely on skin to make a statement. Frankie Avalon later spoke of this with admiration. Annette had this ability to light up the screen without ever having to try too hard, he said in a 2013 interview. She never compromised her values, and that's what made her even more special. Behind the scenes, the two stars developed a deep, platonic friendship that would last a lifetime. They shared long shooting days, grueling press tours, and endless autograph sessions. But not once, according to both, did they ever have a serious disagreement. Their bond was built on mutual respect and genuine affection. Annette even made Frankie the godfather of her daughter Gina, while Frankie named Annette's husband, Jack Gilardi, the godfather of his eldest son. In an era where so many young stars burned out under the pressures of fame, Annette Funicello quietly did the opposite. She protected her image, her values, and her friendships, all while becoming one of the most recognizable faces in American pop culture. Her role in the Beach Party films didn't just extend her career, It redefined her as a symbol of poise, even as the culture around her was shifting rapidly. Navigate stardom, marriage, and motherhood with grace. As her beach movies hit box office gold, Annette's personal life was changing behind the scenes. In 1965, at the height of her fame, she married talent agent Jack Gallardi. That same year, she gave birth to the first of their 3 children, Gina. 2 sons followed, Jack Jr. and Jason. It was a full and busy life, and for a time she seemed to have it all. A thriving career, a young family, and the adoration of millions. But being a wife and mother under the Hollywood spotlight wasn't easy. The demands of filming, singing, and public appearances wore on her, and Annette began to step back. She didn't retire all at once, but the shift was noticeable. She chose to focus on raising her children rather than chasing every role that came her way. It was a move that many in the industry didn't understand, but Annette never seemed concerned with industry approval. She cared more about doing what felt right. Her public image never faltered. Even as she matured into adulthood, she kept the trust of the audience that had grown up with her. She was no longer the shy mouseketeer or the beach girl with the ponytail, but something deeper, a symbol of perseverance, kindness, and staying true to yourself. And yet, even as she gracefully transitioned into private life, something was quietly changing within her, something she couldn't name, something she dared not say aloud. Conceal the first symptoms with professional poise. Though she wouldn't be formally diagnosed until the early 1990s, Annette Funicello later revealed that she had begun experiencing the early signs of multiple sclerosis during the early 1960s, possibly as early as the filming of Beach Party in 1963. At the time, the symptoms were vague: moments of dizziness, subtle shifts in balance, a muscle twitch here, a bout of fatigue there. Nothing definitive, but just enough to raise quiet concern. But in the world she lived in, illness was something you hid. In the 1960s, especially for women in the spotlight, vulnerability wasn't a strength. It was a liability. And for someone like Annette, who had built a career on being the beacon of brightness and stability, there was simply no room for weakness. So she said nothing. Not to the press, not to her fans, not even to Frankie Avalon, with whom she shared one of the closest friendships in Hollywood. She powered through long shooting days, sometimes 14 hours on set, without complaint. She danced, sang, and acted as if nothing was wrong. And maybe part of her believed it. Maybe she hoped the odd symptoms would fade, or that they weren't the sign of something serious. After all, she was still young, still strong, still Annette. It wouldn't be until nearly 30 years later that she would reveal the truth. That those early, unexplained moments on the Beach Party set were likely the first warning signs of a lifelong struggle. But back then, all she could do was smile and keep going. Reveal the truth after decades of silence. In 1987, Annette reunited with Frankie Avalon one more time for Back to the Beach, a nostalgic comedy that lovingly poked fun at the very genre they had helped define. The film featured cameos, music, and inside jokes for longtime fans, and for Annette and Frankie, it was a chance to relive the magic. But once again, Annette was hiding something. By this time, her multiple sclerosis had progressed. She had received a formal diagnosis and was beginning to experience more significant symptoms. Her balance was off. Her speech was occasionally slurred. But still, she said nothing to Frankie. It wasn't until after filming during the promotional tour for the movie that her husband, Glenn Holt, pulled Frankie aside and told him the truth. Annette was sick. Frankie was stunned and devastated. He later recalled, "I never said anything to her, but I knew she was suffering and in pain. She was such a trooper, and we had a good time doing the shows together." That quiet revelation deepened their friendship even further. In the years that followed, Frankie stood by her, becoming an advocate for MS awareness and supporting her every step of the way. In 1992, Annette made the decision to go public with her diagnosis. She founded the Annette Funicello Research Fund for Neurological Diseases, which remains active to this day. Her announcement helped shatter the stigma around multiple sclerosis and gave countless others the courage to speak up. Fans didn't turn away. Instead, they leaned in with love. Annette, once again, had done what no one else could. She turned vulnerability into strength and illness into action. Leave a legacy of dignity and enduring light. Annette Funicello passed away on April 8, 2013, at the age of 70, after complications from MS. Her death prompted a global outpouring of grief, from those who had grown up watching her, from fans who had danced to her songs, and from fellow entertainers who had been touched by her grace. Frankie Avalon, still heartbroken years later, called her the most genuine, beautiful person I've ever known. Their friendship, which began with sun and surf, ended in loyalty and love. But Annette's legacy goes far beyond her films or music. She showed an entire generation what it meant to grow up with integrity. She carried a private burden with extraordinary strength, refusing to let it dim her joy or stop her from doing what she loved. She honored her promises, stayed true to her roots, and made her own path, on and off screen. Walt Disney once said, "Annette has a quality that sets her apart from the rest." That quality was more than talent. It was sincerity. It was light. It was courage in the quietest form. And in the end, Annette Funicello gave the world far more than catchy songs and sunny smiles. She gave them a story of bravery, one that didn't need to be shouted